Alright guys, thought I'd give you a little tour of what I have going on in the backyard here. Last year was my first year to grow chestnuts for wildlife plantings, and this year I went a little overboard. Last year I had 5 of these flats. These are Rootmaker Express trays. Each one is an individual cell. And the good thing about root makers, they're good for growing trees that have long tap roots because they air prune the roots. As the roots hit the air outside the pot, show one here, see those holes? The grooves in the pot direct the roots down toward those holes. And what happens is, when it hits the air, the root is air pruned. So you don't end up with a tap root and roots that circle the pot like normal pots, solid wall pipes, or pots, I'm sorry, round pots basically. I don't know if you've ever taken a plant or anything that's been grown in a nursery pot, and you've taken it out and you see all the roots are circling, and if it's a tree or something to that effect, you also notice the taproot at the bottom may be circling. That's not good for trees that have long taproots. So that's what these pots are designed to do. So what I've done is, like I said, last year I started with 5 of these trays. This year I have, I think, 18. So as you can see, there are a few that didn't take. I have a few blank spots, but not many. Most of them, each cell has a individual tree. This right here is the only tray that I have of buck 4 chestnuts, and it was a variety that was developed at Auburn University, and it's a Chinese variety, and basically their claim to fame is that they drop late, like way into November. So if you're planting these for wildlife, that's perfect, because here in Texas and in several other parts of the country, deer rifle season starts in November. So if you have an attractant, something that will attract the deer to a certain spot in November, then you're good. So I'm really excited about these. They're looking great. I don't know if you've noticed, but everything is really wet. We've had an abnormally wet spring here, especially for Texas. About the last month, it's rained about every other day. And I'm actually starting to get concerned that my trees may be getting too much water. I know that sounds kind of funny, but chestnuts are real picky about the amount of water, especially young trees. You see the mix here. It's a special nursery, professional nursery growers mix. It has a lot of perlite in it, some vermiculite, a few other things. It's called ProMix BX. And probably the only thing that's saving me with all this rain is that this mix drains real well. So that kind of helps keep the roots not too saturated. But anyway, I'll go on down here. I've got all my trays labeled here, or most of them anyway, the ones that have nothing but the same variety in the tray. These are what I call wildlife hybrids. These come from Empire chestnut, and they are a real small nut, so they probably would be good for other wildlife too, is like turkeys and things like that would eat chestnuts. I have several flats of these. There are 2 flats right here, the first ones that I planted. They're very vigorous. They're quick to germinate, and very easy to grow, seems like. They're starting on their, looks like their 3rd leaf now, most of them. Some of them their 4th leaf. So as you can see back there, that one right there is pretty tall, probably 18 inches or so. Moving on down here, I have a flat of what are supposed to be American chestnuts. I bought these off eBay. They're very large chestnut, and I think they're at least partly American. I'm not sure that they're pure American. Nonetheless, I have them here, and they grow fairly well. They're a little bit harder to germinate. They're a little bit slower to germinate, but I think I have pretty much a whole flat here of Americans. As you can see, I'm having a little issue here with some of the leaves. I think it's due to too much water, actually. And the Americans seem to be more susceptible to that. As you can see right here, I got some leaf curl going on. All these trees are outside. I didn't start any of them inside the house like a lot of people do. They have a little grow room set up and things like that. I just don't have the money to do that, so I'll wait until the threat of frost is over and fill my flats up with the nuts. I try to delay germination as long as I can by storing the nuts in just plain Ziploc bags with no moisture at all. A lot of people will add a damp paper towel or some damp longleaf sphagnum moss to theirs, but what that does is that those chestnuts, after they've stratified for at least 60 to 90 days, they'll start germinating in that bag. And if you're not ready for them to germinate, then you know, you've got a problem on your hands. So what I do is I store them dry in the refrigerator. I mark the date on the bag to help me track how long it's been, and most of them will not germinate until you put them in some type of moist medium. I use longleaf sphagnum moss. I usually I have several like Tupperware containers. I put the nuts inside there when I'm ready for them to germinate with some damp sphagnum moss. You don't need it real wet. You just need to soak it and then squeeze it as hard as you can with your hands to get all the moisture out of it, just so it's barely damp. All right, so once you do that, store them back in the refrigerator, and once they get a little bit of moisture, they'll start germinating. Then you can put them in your pots. Basically, that's how I do everything. It may not be the right way, but it's the way that I've done it for the last 2 years, and it works pretty well, because I have to make sure that my nuts don't germinate until the threat of frost is gone for me. And luckily, that's pretty early since I'm down here in Texas. But anyway, here's moving on down here. Here's a flat of several flats. The last 3 on this table here are Dunstan, and they were a variety developed by a man with the last name of Dunstan. I couldn't tell you his first name. They are a very large nut, and they're very popular with wildlife enthusiasts to grow on their lands. And I have several of them here. I bought these from Chestnut Ridge of Pike County. If you go online, just do a Google search for these places and you'll find them. As you can see, they are the tallest ones. All of these were planted at the same time. All of these flats that I've shown. The Dunstan by far are the most vigorous as far as growing tall. I imagine these are at least 20 inches tall, some of them. And they're looking good. They're not showing a lot of the leaf curl like I showed on the Americans. Most of these are looking pretty good. There's some that for some reason have a little issue, as you can see here, over here. And again, I think it's just because chestnuts do not like wet roots, basically. So if you're going to plant these somewhere, plant them to where they don't stand in water, definitely. So there's each flat here has 18, and like I said, most of them are full. So you do the math there. I've got several Dunstans that will be ready for planting this fall. Should I decide to do so, I may plant some of these and then overwinter a majority of them and plant them in the fall of 2016 as 2-year-old trees, or 1.5-year-old trees, however you want to put it. So there you go. There's my first my table here is just made out, excuse the tall grass and stuff below. I've sprayed Roundup everywhere, trying to keep the grass to a minimum. But it's been, like I said, it's been raining every other day, and it's just impossible to mow right now. So I just made these tables out of scrap lumber. It's pressure treated lumber that I had, and I used a cattle panel cut in half lengthwise, and I made the table to the to the width of the cattle panel. And then to keep squirrels and things from climbing up underneath it and getting the nuts while they're just sitting there in the trays before they sprout, I put a layer of chicken wire, and that keeps the squirrels out. And I'll show you the cage that I built to cover them while they are smaller. This table right here, as a matter of fact, I actually just took the cage off. You can probably see it right back there. I just took the cage off yesterday and removed all of the remaining nuts from the sides of the seedlings. I don't know if you can tell here, but this is how I plant them. You can see the nuts on the top here, and they're attached to the side of the seedling. And so I just take a knife. Most of them are dried up already, and you can just pinch them off, but the ones that are a little bit tougher to get off, I take a sharp knife and just whack it off there, and they come right off. And so anyway, here's the cage that I built. Like I said, I have another one for my other table here. The cage is still on this table because I have not had a chance to remove the nuts from the trees yet. So basically, this will give you a good idea of the setup here to try to prevent squirrels from raiding your trees before they have a chance to even get going. All it takes is 1 or 2 squirrels, and they can ruin your whole project. So keep that in mind if you want to grow trees outside and you have any type of squirrels or chipmunks around. I don't know if you can see this because of the cage, but going on down here, here's a flat of Allegheny Chinquapins. These are not actually chestnuts. They are a close distant cousin to the chestnut. They are very vigorous, although you couldn't tell right now. They're pretty short. But this whole table right here was planted about 3 weeks after the first table, so these are going to be a little bit shorter right now because they're about 3 weeks behind. But as you can see, the leaves look a lot similar to chestnuts, but they're definitely different. And this flat right here is, I think, has 15 in it. I've got 3 in the back there that didn't grow. So for the most part, I had very good success. I only had 18 or 20 some odd nuts to begin with, and so getting my first shot, getting 15 of them to germinate, I think pretty good success rate there. But as you can tell, they are putting on their 3rd set of leaves right now, so they're going good. Everything, once they start showing their first set of leaves, I top everything with a sprinkle of Osmocote Plus. You can get it at any of your local box stores. That's a slow release fertilizer, and I figure by the time the tree starts putting on their 2nd set of leaves, the fertilizer will have time to kind of seep into the medium and become available to the plant. So that's the reasoning for that. Just be careful and not get it on any of the leaves, or let the little pebbles set on the leaves, because I'll show you what happens. I didn't do that to this tree right here. I left, where's it at? Right here. I left a couple of the pebbles of the Osmocote. I did not realize that it would burn the plant that bad. It sat there on that leaf right there, and it burned a hole in it. So just be careful, don't get it on the leaves. So moving on down here, back to the table that has the cage over it. Here's a flat of Chinese chestnuts. I think this flat is pretty much full. I think so, yeah. They're growing good. They don't show near the stress from overwatering like the Americans do, so that's a good sign. Moving on down, here's a flat of Americans, and ironically, these are not showing the signs of leaf curl like the others. I don't know if it's just because they're a little bit younger or what have you, but and I have there's a few back there that didn't germinate. Every nut that I put in a pot will have a root radical sticking out. It will have already germinated in the Ziploc bag or in the Tupperware container in the damp sphagnum before I even put it in a pot. It's got to germinate. and all of these did, but for whatever reason, some of them just didn't take off and start and produce a viable seedling. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but like I said, all of the nuts that I put in pots, they have a root radical sticking out, so they already have a chance. Some of them send out a little shoot, top grow, and then for whatever reason they die. It's just the nature of the beast. So you're not going to get it most of the time. You're not going to get 100% success rate, but by waiting until the root radical is sticking out of the nut, you have a better chance. So let me get it focused here. Here's another flat of wildlife hybrids from Empire Chestnut. Like I said, these are a little bit younger. Most of these down toward the end here on the table, excuse me, are nuts that I kind of have left over. They were stragglers that didn't want to germinate right off the bat, and they finally germinated, so I went ahead and put them in flats. Here's a mixed flat. See, pots 1 through 3 are buck 4s, which looks like to be the biggest ones there. 4 through 15 are Americans, and 16 through 18 are wildlife hybrids. And I've got a full flat here, and as you can tell, the Americans are showing that leaf curl or wilt or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I'm kind of concerned about that. I've actually been, of all things, thinking about ways to maybe drape some painter's plastic or some type of tarp or something over this cage to block the rain. I can't believe I'm actually saying that, but I'm considering doing that because they're just getting too much water right now, and the 10-day forecast for us here doesn't look much better. It's 60 to 80% chance to almost every day. So it just comes to a point to where they're getting too much water, and I think we're pretty much there. So here's another flat of Dunstans. They're looking pretty good. These right here are showing a few signs of the problem. I don't know. Again, I'm assuming it's too much water. So moving on down here, I kind of broke away. This is a mixed flat, and I don't have it labeled, but most of these are Dunstans that just were kind of stragglers from, like I said, from germinating. They took a real long time. Sometimes you run into that issue. And the ones on the front here, the first 6 pots are, well, no, I'm sorry, the first 5 pots here, because that 6th one is a chestnut, are bur oaks. My grandmother has a pretty large bur oak tree in her front yard, as do my parents, and I collect acorns off of it every year. I had some extra pots left over, so I decided, what the heck. The bur oaks were stubborn this year and didn't want to germinate, so they're pretty far behind. These are looking pretty good here, and they can tolerate a lot more water than the chestnuts can. So just kind of moving on back here. I know this video is a little bit long, but I wanted to show everybody what I've got going on. Good look at the cage here. It's the table. Again, I have it leveled off with some blocks so that it's nice and level or close. And I made the table separate here. They're basically 8 foot long, but this one's a little bit shorter due to the fact I had to cut part of the cattle panel off. So this one's probably about 7 foot instead of 8. So anyway, it's a good look at that. And we'll move on back down here to my other table, which is, like I said, about 3 weeks ahead of the other one. So everything's looking pretty good. We're going to have a lot of work to do when it comes time to plant these, and like I said, I may overwinter some of them, especially the buck 4s, because I'm most interested in those, to get those, to baby them, to make sure that they make it. The only bad thing about using these root makers is that it makes a real shallow root system. These trees have large tap roots, like I said before, and if you direct plant them in the ground, which a lot of people recommend, they spend all their energy sending out that tap root to get established, and some of that is good and some of that is bad. it gets established, but it doesn't put on much top growth for the first year or so. So it's kind of a trade-off. And the big thing with these, with the root makers, is that you need to be able to provide supplemental water to them when you plant them out in the field for at least the first year, until they get established. Because, like I said, the root system is, as a result of being air pruned, is pretty shallow. The good thing about it is, though, is that it makes for a very dense root system. So the plant is able to take in a lot of water. And I don't know if you can hear that, but it's starting to sprinkle on me again. So I'm gonna have to cut this video. It's 20 minutes long anyway, so you're probably getting tired of listening to me jack. But anyway, I'm just excited about my trees. Most of these are going to go onto our hunting grounds, to the family farm where my brother and I hunt. I have considered selling a few, just to supplement or to kind of offset some of the expenses that I've had. So I haven't decided that. I also have some 2-year-old trees that I've been growing in 3-gallon root pouch grow bags. Root pouches work on the same principle. Well, I said that wrong. Root pouches trap the roots, so to the sides of the bag the roots grow out and they get air pruned. At the bottom of the bag they trap the roots so it doesn't allow them to grow through, and it traps them so that they don't start circling. So that's a good thing about the root pouches. There's several others. Rootmaker makes root trapper bags. It works on the same principle. Try to get my finger out of the view screen there. And so maybe I'll make another video. I've got several trees that are in these root pouches, a few that are in the root trapper bags. Do a comparison of the different two. I think they work similar. The root trapper bags, the main difference is that it traps the roots on all sides. It doesn't air prune the roots to the outside on the sides of the bag. So anyway, this is Matt. I'm in Texas, and we're growing trees. I'll do another update when they get, as time moves along, they get a little larger, and we have to start thinking about moving them over to 1-gallon bags sometime probably in the next couple of months. Thanks. Bye.